How many people have networked with different people? Cool. Who came the farthest? Who's from West Coast? Make some noise. Okay. Midwest, where you at? Cool. Down south, dirty south, Texas? Cool. Who from Atlanta? My true Atlanta people. Hey, y'all know we're rare these days. Y'all give me just 1 second. Actually, we'll start off like this. Y'all can introduce yourself, tell us a little about who you are and what you've done so far.
Hello, my name is Gregory Bloom. I'm an entertainment attorney from Chase Lawyers in Miami and New York. It's my second time speaking here at A3C, and I'm going to be covering all the legal knowledge that you're going to need to know about being a songwriter or dealing with your publishing.
Hello, I am Rachel Asil. I'm a singer-songwriter, pianist, producer, and I'm really happy to be here today, and I hope that you get out of this what you came here for. I've been speaking on panels for quite a bit, although, you know, it's a crazy industry, and I'm just happy to be here, so any questions you have, I'm here to answer, and the deepest questions you have, ask, because you guys aren't going to get a chance to do this every time, and that's what we're here for.
What's going on? My name is Knox. I'm with the production group The Olympics from Michigan and whatnot. It's a pleasure to be here. If you got any questions whatsoever, anything, ask. Because this is an intimate setting, and you know you don't get this opportunity all the time. So anything you want to ask as far as production, publishing, whatever.
My name is Sean Taylor. I'm trying to keep this as short as possible. I've had a lot of jobs in the music business. I started as a program director for what is 107.9 here in Atlanta. I was the music director at Hot 97 in New York. I was an A&R guy for Columbia Records. I was also the general manager for Disturbing the Peace for 8.5 years. And now I run a company called Splitsheet, which helps songwriters manage their copyright data and information.
My name is Kevin Shine. Basically, I started as doing artist development and doing also an educator myself at Columbia College in Chicago, where I was responsible for like 70% of my students getting jobs or internships in the music industry, and I moved on to become vice president of a DJ organization. And then I came down here as a manager with some songwriters who I was taking around everywhere, and landed in a position working under the senior vice president at Jive Records as an A&R with him, and worked on R. Kelly's Grammy-nominated Untitled album, helped sign a kid named Jacob Lattimore, and then shortly after that moved on back into doing consulting, and then finalized it by working recently on Ann Nesby's album and working with Kim Burrell on her project and consulting them and working on their project. And presently I'm consulting a new label with Universal with an artist that I just found called Aaron Tyson that I'm really excited about. And got a conference coming up next week that I'm doing for singers, because I just kind of feel we're in a time period where we have A3C, we have BET Weekend, we have all these hip-hop generated situations, and we don't really have the same mechanisms for the singers. So I want to create this same type of mechanism for the singers. Ultimately, I would love to see my event be like Essence Festival meets South by Southwest.
Meets A3C, by the way. You gotta throw an A3C there.
A3C, I'm sorry. Politically correct, that was right, politically correct.
Absolutely. So how we're going to do this panel, this is going to be a very open panel. I'm going to ask them questions. I know most of the time you just pass the mic, but because this is an intimate room and setting, I want this to be as such. You know, somebody said that you don't get this opportunity a lot. So I'm going to ask them questions, and if you can just kind of hold your questions till the end, you know, we'll pass the mic out to the crowd, and we'll go from there. But this question is for, you know, everybody to answer. There's no particular order, but what was your first experience with split sheets and copyrights? So I know we have two mics, so Knox, if you want to start it down there, and we'll pass it back this way.
Man, my first experience was in 2005. I did a record for Jim Jones called Summer in Miami. And man, it was crazy because, Ronald Isley, the Isley brothers, they wanted cash. They didn't want to do any kind of paperwork. He wanted $10,000 in cash. I thought it was like a ransom or something. Like, man, in cash, unmarked bills, you know. So I have someone that collects my publishing, my royalties, and everything for me, and they didn't do the paperwork on the sample, and me and Trey Songz split the whole record, you know, like straight up the middle, you know. So he just wanted cash, and then a couple months later, he ended up going to jail for the tax evasion stuff. So that was like it was crazy dealing with publishing and paperwork, you know, for the first time, you know. Just saying, oh man, they want cash, and they wanted it from me. I'm like, I just make the beat, you know. I didn't know the protocol or anything, you know. So I guess they ended up paying them or whatever, and a couple months later, like say, he ended up going to jail or whatever, or going to court or whatever happened to him, probably for the tax evasion stuff. So I mean, it was a crazy experience, you know, to say the least.
My first experience with Splitsheet was probably 2001 as director of A&R at Columbia Records, dealing with multiple projects from Wyclef to Jagged Edge to Mobb Deep, and learning the importance of filling out split sheets and how it relates to money and how it relates to assets, because you never really understand, or I think at that point nobody was really educated as to how important a piece of copyright is or your asset is, because essentially that's really what it is. It's no different from Apple filing their patent or any other company filing a patent. It's a piece and it translates into money. So I would have to say my first time was 2001 as an A&R dealing with multiple projects. And as Knox alluded to, samples and writers and credits, it's all very important, or else you find yourself at the end of a very costly legal battle, which you don't really want. And trust me, when you're a writer who has half a song on an album, you can't afford to spend that type of money in court. So 2001.
My very first experience was a partner of mine at the time. He worked with Motown. We were managing a songwriter for a project, and the artist basically came to us and said, okay, I want a cut of the publishing of the splits for me being on the record. And I was like, wait a minute, I ain't never heard, you know, because I'm used to the writers negotiating, but I ain't never heard the artist say, I want a cut of the publishing for being on the record. And so I was just like, wait a minute, how does that work? You know, and it really, at the end of the day, it came down to the artist saying, I want 10% of the record. So the producer and the songwriters had to split with them for the, you know, with the publishing of that record, because they wanted it all out. They ain't know, like, okay, I just want this out, that side, or I wrote on this, or I influenced that. So I was kind of in the dark, and luckily, it forced me, I can say at that time, to really step my game up and really learn what this really meant, what this piece of property really stands for. Because, a lot of us kind of think it's just the writers in the room. But sometimes, even like with hip hop, it's more dangerous than in hip hop, because y'all have your boys in the room when y'all write, and y'all friends in the room when y'all write, and they could be in there saying, "Hey, you should say stop," and then you didn't, and then you might have wrote it in there without knowing that they said that, and they'll be like later on, like, "Yeah, I said stop, and you got to put me in the splits." So you got to be real cautious of that piece of property, because it's a very important piece of property, and when that split is turned in, it represents who's a part of that process for the rest of your life.
Well, my experience is probably a little bit different, because I'm speaking from a very different place, meaning when I was a kid, I'd started so young. When I was a kid, I'd known that copyrights were really important, and so I would do like the poor man's copyright. So how many of you in here copyright any of your music, or know anything about it, or know how important it is? Just 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay. Not enough. And I know someone who recently got signed to a major label deal and didn't know how important their, I guess, copyright was to them, or is to them. So copyright is like everything. It means everything. It's something that the labels fight for as an artist, and I guess it's more important for all of us to know how important it is, and the fact that there are a couple ways to do it too. Like if you can't afford to do a copyright for 35 or whatever, You could do it as a body of work, which is what I did when I was younger. First I did poor man's copyright at like 14, and then as I got older I started doing it in bulk. So I would take all of my music, and I still do that today until I decide to do them individually, because it's important to do it individually as well. But you could do it in bulk and say this is a body of work, and you just give like the $35 fee. So make sure you do your registration with your PRO, your performing rights organization, and make sure you know how important your copyright is, and you can just get information from the government about copyright or look it up and find out how important it is, and make sure that if one of you is a recording artist or decides to become one, or as a writer, you know the importance of it, because the labels know the importance of it. The people who are taking your money know the importance of it, but it's unfortunate that the artists and the writers don't know the importance of it, and they make sure that they don't share that part with you so that they can screw you in some way. So the less you know, the easier it is for you to get in trouble by it, and you know, that's very important. And I'm just probably going to talk more about my experiences, like what's happened as I've gotten older and started so young, and make sure that you know that you have to register your songs and you have to copyright your music. That's the most important way to stay protected.
I'm gonna start off by telling you guys a few basics about copyright and sort of pick up on what Sean was saying. Number one, I want everyone in the room to understand that there's two separate copyrights. There's a sound recording copyright that has to do, the definition of a record company is a company that owns sound recording copyrights. It's the version of the song that you put on that recorded medium. It has nothing to do with the composer copyright and the song splits and what's owned by the writers. The sound recording is the master, the publishing is in the composition in the composer copyright. Okay? Now, another thing I want to stress to you guys is that copyright ownership is property ownership. It's intellectual property. Just like you own a house, just like you own a car, it's property that you own. And you own it for your lifetime plus 70 years, which means that your great-great-great-grandchildren can be collecting revenue off of what you create today. And my experience with copyright, and not to take too much time, but I see this every day. I see clients coming in, even established artists who come into my office, and they go into a song and they don't do their split sheets. So, like Kevin was saying, they're going to come out and the pizza guy comes in and said, oh, that sounds great, but if he didn't sign a work for hire, or if he didn't sign the necessary paperwork, he has a claim if he contributed to that work, because that's the way copyright works. Unless it's in a signed writing, no deal ever existed. So if he changed the word blue to green, he has a copyright claim in your work. So getting your paperwork done in advance, especially when it comes to your publishing and your songwriting splits, is the most important thing you can do in the business.
Absolutely. This next question, Greg, I'll actually stay with you. Can you give us an example of a record or a body of work that helped launch your brand nationally or receive recognition?
Well, for our firm, we keep strict confidentiality on our clients. They like it that way, and we like it that way. But we've had a lot of artists that we've been able to, through assisting them with the proper legal advice, making sure all their paperwork is done, protect their brand and make sure that they've come in the door as independent artists, and as they grow and as they work their way up into publishing deals or whatever, sync licensing that they're able to do, that they're protected because their paperwork was done first.
This question is for everybody. Once again, explain or tell us about the record or body of work that launched your brand nationally or your career.
So the first thing that launched me nationally, I'm going to say, was my debut album, The Opus Unplugged, and it got me on tour with Anthony Hamilton on a couple of dates, and it's gotten me a lot of recognition, and I got the Grammys, the Recording Academy, to cover my album release. And so everybody that was on my lineup, my panel, I had like Melody Thornton and Timothy Bloom and The Boogie and Desi Page, and I invited all my friends to get with me on this incredible lineup at the Roxy. And then ASCAP did a really big write-up on the album, and I did all of this independently. So I'm going to talk a little about what it means to be an independent artist, to do things like that, and the biggest lesson I can teach you today is about your relationships. And if you don't have relationships, a lot of things can't happen for you in this industry, and it's really based off of that. Relationships are everything, and when I say everything, I mean literally everything, because there might be someone less talented than you, but they know how to make their relationship, and they're going to get in the studio first. Do you know what I mean? With the producer you've been dying to work with, and you could potentially be 10 times more talented than them. But getting on that tour and getting the Recording Academy to do it was like a live interview at the Recording Academy with everybody, and it was on the front page for 2 days. That gained a lot of exposure for me, and ASCAP's write-up gained a lot of exposure for me. And I think if you know what you want, you've got to go forward to it and ask those people to gain and help you gain that recognition. Otherwise, it's not going to happen for you. You've got to go after what you want, and you've got to know what you want, and then you've got to ask for those things. Because I can't tell you, if there were certain things in my career I didn't ask for, they probably would have never happened. And my relationship with Anthony Hamilton was very long. Like, I had met him years back at a printing shop, 10 years before, and I'd known him before his career blew up. But I was studying graphic design, and I met him at a print shop, and I was like, this guy looks like he's famous. And I had these old CDs I had made copies of when I was younger, and I handed it to him. And through that, I kept my relationship with Eli Davis, his manager. And eventually, when I released something, I reached out to him. But I had reached out to him throughout the years just to say hi. And those things get you into the room, and those things get you onto a tour. Just to say, how's your family? How are you doing? How are you feeling? And those help you gain recognition nationally, internationally, however you want, but you've got to create that faith.
Two things help me. One, I did a deal at the time with Mike Tyson when he had a label deal with Def Jam for an artist I had named Centel Benson. And then the other thing was a project that I never got credited for, which some of us, I'm sure a lot of us have those kind of stories, but it was a great lesson for me. I helped to develop a career of a gentleman named Kevin Shakespeare Briggs. But because, once again, because we're talking about business or legal or whatever, because I didn't handle my business or legal correctly when he moved on, I didn't get to move on with him in the business situation. So, you know, part of, and then being with the Centel situation, I was a young manager. So, you know, as a young manager, you have all the hustle and you have the drive and you're doing all this great work and you love the artists and you know, they're your best friend and everything, and you mean everything to them and they mean everything to you, and you think y'all are inseparable and nothing's ever going to break you guys up. And then when somebody starts talking about money and legal and you don't know the rules to the game, then all of a sudden that relationship look like y'all just been jerking each other the whole time. And you've been lying to them, and you've been keeping information from them, and you ain't been telling them stuff, and they feeling some sort of way. And then at the end of the day, you know what the bottom line is they got to pay their bills, and you got to pay yours. And they got to figure out how they're going to grow their career, and you got to grow yours. So part of what we all have to be in this room thinking about today, because like she said, a lot of people didn't raise their hands, is what are we in this for? We say we're in it to make money, but then the rules of it is that we're like basketball players on the court playing a pickup game. And then we calling the fouls ourselves, so we think that we all good. But then when we get in the game and somebody's got wearing them stripes and they start calling fouls against us, and we in an official game, that's when it really gets real to us. That some of us might be talented enough to be in this business, but maybe we're not prepared mentally to be in this business. Because mentally, that means you got to play by the rules. And the rules is that there's copyrights, there's contracts, there's lawyers, there's position players that have their parts. And we all have to learn those parts, because we love to say manager, we love to say label, we love to say all these words like they just fly out our mouth and they don't mean nothing. But then when we get in front of these people up here on this panel, it means something. So I just wanted to say that because, you know, being in this business, those things launched my career because they got me in front of people. But once I got in front of them people, guess what? How did you handle your business? It decides on whether you're going to stay in front of the people.
My career started in 1995 in radio. I spent 10 years in radio, and then I left the radio side and moved to the label side. So my experiences are probably very different from everybody on the panel, just simply because my entire career has been spent behind the business, behind the scenes, always dealing with paperwork, whether it was personalities in radio or whether it was splits, artists, label, publishers on the label side. And Kevin makes a good point. You do yourself an injustice by not learning everything you can, because how are you playing in a game where you don't understand the rules? You think of any other sport, any other game that you play, Monopoly, it doesn't matter, board game, how do you play a game if you don't know the rules? So you can't, when you're in the music business, often enough, people like to assert blame. So how do you even know who you're blaming if you don't know what game you're playing? Or a lot of times they're like the label.
Yeah.
The label did what they did to protect themselves.
Exactly.
When you deal with a label, you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do to protect yourself. Or anytime you're dealing with anybody in any type of business arrangement, because if they don't want to sit across from you, at the end of the day, we are all grown men and women, and you're just simply trying to handle your business. And if they can't respect that, then maybe that's somebody you probably shouldn't be doing business with.
One of the most important records that we did was, we did a lot of records with a lot of artists, Jeezy, Wayne, Cash Money, just everybody, everybody that's out right now, you know what I'm saying? But one of the most important records that we did was with Big Sean. We did a record with him called Bullshit or whatever. And it was a very critical moment in his career. He had got signed or whatnot, but the label wasn't behind him, and it's not what everybody thinks, when you get a record deal, it's just, oh, here comes the glitter and gold. It's not like that. He was an inch away from being not Big Sean at all. So, us all being from the city, we created a great record. It was a good record. It was so good to where Kanye wanted to co-produce the record. He wanted parts on it. So, and this is one of the things that, definitely wanted to ask him too. And we had our Kanye moment where we told him, nah, we gotta let the record be what it is. We're all from the same hometown. Let's just do it. So that was a big record for us. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't end up on the album, but it was on iTunes or whatnot. But that's still a big record to me because we were a part of making Def Jam and Kanye take what they saw, and really prioritize, put him up. Hey, we got to put his album on. We got to really do an album on him. You know what I'm saying? Just like what Kev said, you got to really understand why you're here. And the music industry is not for the weak at all. You got to be a real animal. Really, you got to leave your emotions at the door. It's real. It's real. And you cannot be buddy. After you cut the check or you get whatever you feel like you deserve, then you can go toast and talk and laugh. But if you don't got your business right, your business will get you right. And you're gonna be complaining about how you did something you never got credit, you never got paid, or whatever. One of these bitter people. Whenever you see somebody on World Star talking about one of the artists that's on, and they never gave me this or that, they didn't have their business right. It's not, the friendship comes second. This is the entertainment industry. This is the music business. You gotta handle your business. I jumped out on the I jumped off the porch early. I didn't give a damn. I just wanted to get my name out here because I love music. And there's certain situations where I learned. I bumped my head, and it won't happen again, ever, at all. So you really got to understand why you're here. If you can't do it, might as well go ahead outside. Really, seriously.
Absolutely. Knox, I actually want to stay down there with you, and if anybody else wants to chime in on this question. We talked about copyrights and split sheets, but let's talk about the importance of placements, and what are placements?
Well, it's two type of placement. Well, with rap, unfortunately, with the urban music, mixtapes. I hate mixtapes now. The last 2 years, I just grown to hate them. I don't care anymore. And then there's actual, album placements or commercials, video games, anything that you get paid for, and a lot of the times it's about your relationships. That's what it is. I used to listen to the radio, I'm like, damn, this beat is fucking horrible. How did this get out here? It's just knowing you have to have the relationship. That means so much. So actually having a face to match your name, there's only so much you can do behind the internet. Thank God that you have the convenience of being able to email stuff, but you have to really take trips. You have to really be out here, shake hands, make friends. You have to really you know, have your ear to the street, you know, and really know what's going on, you know, because at the end of the day, if I have a good relationship with Kev and he got an artist, you know, and we have a good rapport with each other, and you may be just incredible at producing. At the end of the day, we know each other, so hey, I'm there, you know. So, and that means a lot as far as getting placement with labels, because they play favorites. Oh yeah, they play favorites for real. They do what's convenient for them. If they got a relationship with you already, you know, that's who they're gonna go to first. So, and obtaining that relationship sometimes, you have to take a L. You know, you're not gonna get paid out the gate. It's just not gonna work like that. You gotta do some free stuff. You just have to. Unless you just really have power behind you already. You know, if you're a lawyer, if you have a Theo settlement, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, if you got those people behind you from the jump. Other than that, you know, you have to make sure you know, I think Shot Money, a couple people say they say your network determines your net worth. So it's like you have to have that. You have to be out here.
So, I'm going to say something really special about this because I know everyone's talking about protecting yourself, but really, it's very difficult to protect yourself when you really, really, really want to make it, and you know you have the talent, and you want to get in the room with somebody, and you know that the relationship means everything. Like, I'll give you a few examples. I've known Kalina from Dirty Money for a long time. She was a writer first and all that stuff. And Kalina and I have been friends for like 5 years or something, and we still have never really worked in the room together. And I've known S1 for like 6 years, and we never really worked into the room together up until about a year ago when I took a trip to Dallas, and it was for something else, and I have a very strong relationship with his wife. I knew Polo for years. He was my neighbor. He lived up the street from me, like literally 5 houses, and we never really knew each other. But I'm just giving you like throwing small examples, like Toby Gad, like everything from country to pop to soul to funk to hip hop and all that stuff. And you want to make sure that when you are trying to get a placement, that you have a solid friendship. And if the split and all of that is important, that's great. But if someone doesn't feel like they could trust or respect you, they're not going to let you in the room. So you're not even going to have a chance to make a split sheet or to sign a split sheet or to write a song that's good enough to have a song on the radio. So you've got to, you know, sometimes when you get in the room, I know the split sheet is important, but you've just got to get in the room first. And it's like with a major producer, 9 out of 10 times, you're not going to bring out a piece of paper to him when he has 50 #1 records and say, look, can we sign this right here? That's not realistic. Yeah, and a lot of the times you're not going to have a manager, and sometimes you're not going to have a lawyer. And I'm just talking about like you on your own. How many of you are like on your own and have nobody and nothing? Like just, okay, at least 3 of you. That's a lot out of a room like this, and half of you, you know, are you also, yeah. So a lot of us, and some of you might be shy to admit that you're alone, but I'm still kind of alone. And you're always alone. Even when you have representation, nobody works for your career as hard as you do, period. I don't care who you have. Not you, not you, not you, not you, not you. Nobody's going to work hard for me. I'm going to work hard for me. And I have to make those people who are on my team work hard for me and believe that I deserve a spot in this industry, because people are sharks. And I swear to God, it takes more than a backbone. It takes more than relationships. It takes more than a pretty face. It's even harder for girls to make it, because all the guys want to do is sometimes not even. He said, "Yep." Why, you hitting on girls all the time?
No, but
I'm kidding. I know what you do. I'm just saying that it takes a lot to be a woman in this industry. And what I mean by that is you've got to be strong on many levels. It's a good thing, because sometimes it gets you in the session, but you've got to draw the line. And you've got to prove that your talent is more important than your face or anything else.
And I just want to chime in on that part.
Please do.
Because, no, seriously, on that part I want to chime in, because females, that you get the respect because of your work. You can come in there with all of that, my mama saying I ain't in this business, because I get tired of females using the word business. And they don't really know what they set themselves up for. Like, they be like, I'm all about my business. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because if you're really about your business, then your business would have got in the room before you got in the room. If you get in the room because of your look, then that wasn't business that got you in that room. That was your look that got you in that room.
And then you've got to do the business.
But you know, you got to have something quickly to show that you have some worth and value to be in that room. You better play a record, you better sing, you better do something quick, because
a lot of the time you don't even get that chance. to play your record. You're in a room full of very successful people. Let's just say you got into a really, really big session and you're the only girl, and this happened to me before. I was in a room with 8 guys. It was me with 8 guys. We were in Atlantic at the Edmonds building. And I swear to God, it was supposed to be me and this one major producer-songwriter, and it wasn't like that. Like 8 people ended up coming, and everyone had an ego, and I had to find a way not to seem like I was the little girl who's like, probably they thought didn't have any talent, and summed up, I probably had more talent than half of the people there, but I had to find a way to elegantly prove that. So everybody had gone in the room to like cut a vocal, because he's like, I'm gonna just play this track, everyone hop on the mic. You know, do you guys do that a lot? Where they're like, let's just play a track, we'll hop on the mic, everyone throw out an idea. Nobody does that? Sure. Okay, let's just say, let's say you do that, right? You jump on the mic, you cut a vocal, and then you get on that, and then all of a sudden I saw, like, I didn't really have an idea, but I happened to be, none of them included me, and this was my session, and they were trying to cut me out of the fact that I was supposed to cut a vocal on this too, and maybe have a melody or a lyric. So I said, I spoke up, and that was a really risky thing for me to do. I'm in a room with 8 guys, it's just me. So I was like, Jay, I have something. I had nothing. I went on the mic, and it turned out that my melody, my lyric, and my vocal, and everything about mine was better, and Jay was like, we're keeping this, and they didn't keep anything else of what the guys did.
Exactly my point.
But it takes time. What I'm saying is it takes time. It might not happen the first session, it might not happen the second session, but you have to keep your relationship. You've got to continue staying in touch consistently without being obnoxious, and find a way to make yourself stand out so you can get into the second session. You're not going to probably have the chance to play your song the first song, and you don't want to force that either because they'll never ask you back. It's a real game, and you've got to learn how to play it, and if you don't learn how to play it, you're going to fall on your face.
I'd like to bring it back a little bit, like you made a comment about placements. And there are more placements than just songs. And I actually sent myself an email I mean, there are more than I can sit in this room and name, but I will name a few just to get the mind working and understanding that these splits and these copyrights, that you never thought, hey, it may click to say, hey, I never thought I could get paid this way. So a few of them, if you want to write them down, speak slow, you can get paid through sources of income for copyrights and splits. SD cards, concert tours, music theaters, song packs, lyrics on clothes, TV syndication, cable, catalog musicals, websites, box sets, jingles, cash shows, tethered downloads, mashups, slot machines, motion pictures. So to name a few, you'd be surprised. Any time that there is a music element, there is a copyright that needs to be cleared and it needs to be split. Now, I heard a lot of, she made a comment and I saw a couple people raise their hands about being alone. That was why my partners and I created Song Splits. Song Splits really is a free music tech platform which you can access from any web-enabled device that allows you to manage your copyrights online. And it also allows you to not only manage your copyrights, but it allows you to talk to your other collaborators simply so you know that everybody's on the song together, you own your shares, you own your piece, everybody clicks and they all agree. And really what it does, it makes attorneys' job easier because I can tell you I spent a lot of money trying to figure out the process 9 or 10 months after these songs are done and nobody's in the room. And it's myself and the attorney and the A&R guy trying to figure out who did what. And then, we're not even so sure we're going to get it right. And then come the splits and then come the disputes. This is a way that you can do it from a cell phone, from an iPad, from a Mac. You can do it right there and then. It's a simple conversation. The system notifies you and you're on a business. I implore you all, it is free. Please visit it.
Is it songsplits.com?
It is www.songsplits.com. And for some people that we have on the system, we have very large producers. At this point, we have 18,000 writers on our system that use it from anywhere from Brian Michael Cox to Talib Kweli to anybody you can possibly think of. And what we're finding out is that a lot of this information for people who have had places and some of you that don't, we may have some of this information already, and it's simply just for you to go on the system and confirm your splits. So we don't want you to feel alone because I've been there. And I've been on that side, and I currently manage Cool and Dre as producers, so I know what it's like to manage producers and be in that position as well. And also, like Knox said, you got to know how to take an L. Sometimes, for the greater good of your career, you got to know how to make a deal. You got to know how to bend. But just because you bend doesn't mean you have to break.
Okay. You said songsplits.com?
www.songsplits.com.
And Bud Up and Cobalt put me under that.
Okay, yeah, that's part of it, yeah.
And I just want to follow up on that and say this, guys. The most important thing you can do as independent artists is educate yourself. Because we get calls every day. We have clients coming into our office who are so uneducated to the music business. They come and say, "Shop my record, get me a deal." And they don't understand that this is really, the way we try to explain it to everyone is you're playing a numbers game. It's all mathematics. You step into the door as an artist 1,000,000 to 1 shot. By educating yourself and copywriting your work and getting an attorney to make sure you're protected, you lessen those odds to 500,000 to 1. Then by going out and doing the things you have to do on the marketing side to sell units, to do shows, to do the things to get your name out there, you're lowering those odds each time. So by the time a record label is even looking at you, you've lowered your odds so well and you've put yourself in such a power position that you don't have to take a crappy deal from the label where you're going to be getting 10% of every split sheet that you see. You're going to be negotiating every part of your career at a much higher level.
I do want to say that when you're going for a placement and you don't have access to a major artist, there's still artists in your city who are doing big things. They may not have a record deal yet, but they might be doing big things. They might be making a lot of moves. These are still primary targets for your first placement. And I always say your first placement is to go get the dude that's doing the work and put as many records on him as possible. When you heard Knox talking, he was talking to you about him and Big Sean before Kanye kicked in. I can also tell you there's a group of guys called the Interns that I helped develop and put together. And those two gentlemen were responsible for bringing Mims back. And what was the dopest thing about their story is that they went in to do some records on him, and the records started coming out so good that what ended up happening was they ended up going from just getting a placement to becoming executive producers on his album, co-executive producers on his album, to that launching their publishing situation, to now they're with Vincent Herbert. So now you're hearing the ass record by them, you're hearing the cakes and stuff like that. But sometimes you guys don't realize that your biggest placement isn't always chasing the biggest names and the major people. Sometimes those people that are right next to you, you could be the difference in their career. So I really like speak on that, especially with hip hop. A lot of us, when we're thinking placement, we think of placement kind of like me and my boy gonna get together and we're gonna go in the studio and record some records. And when you're supposed to be thinking about placement, the psychology of a placement supposed to be you figuring out if this person gives you the best chance of success to put your record where you need it to be so people can hear it, so it can be exploited to all of the people you need it to be exploited to. So whether that's your boy or whether that's somebody close to you, you have to think when you're a producer or when you're an artist trying to find a producer, what is this person giving you the best chance at getting to the people you're trying to get to? Because even if they don't know the people, do their work, because they might have great production. If their production is good, then their production might get you heard because people are messing with them on the production side. If you're working as a writer and your writing is good, they might get you heard on that. Because a lot of times you get hustlers. You get people who can draw people's attention. So in your placement and you're looking to get your first placement, really look for the people that can help you get the attention of the people you're trying to get to, so that gives you the best opportunity to exploit your work.
I'm going to say something about that. Are most of you in here self-published and don't have publishing deals? Yeah. Just one? Just seriously raise your hand, because this is going to help me say, well, okay, so quite a few of you. The reason I say this is because I'm still self-published. I was signed to Akon for a short time, and if you have somebody offering you a deal, a major producer who now is signing artists and writers and publishers, make sure that it's something you really believe is good for you. And if you want an attorney, usually they take 5% of your entire career, and if you're an artist, ask them not to take any of your touring. Sorry, but not. And that's something that you should know, because I did that with my attorney in the beginning. I made sure that he didn't touch my touring, because that's extremely important. But The point in this is that if you have somebody offering you a really good deal or what you think is a good deal, make sure you get a lawyer to tell you that it's not or it is a good deal. And don't take it because you have $5 and you're sleeping on the couch and you're completely broke and he's about to give you $10,000 and or $20,000 or $30,000. That's nothing. Do you understand? If you can make a relationship with a major producer and find yourself in different sessions with them and get a placement that way, then you have leverage. And then you have the chance to let the publishers come to you. And that's the most important. The worst is to chase a publisher because they're not going to give you what you deserve. If you are that talented, you're not going to get it. What you're going to get is stuck with a terrible contract and a terrible way of getting out of it. You'll never get out of it. Yeah. What you want to end up with is an admin deal. That's what you want to end up with, not a bad publishing deal. And even if you're broke, just do it until you feel like it's the right person who will put you in the room with the right people. That's the kind of publisher you want. I'm still working with Warner Chappell, Sony ATV, EMI. I'm not signed to any of them, but my relationships are so deep and I work so hard and I'm never late to a session and I'm always delivering the best material I can. That's what they call me for. That's why I've held on to my publishing for this long. And when I get those placements, because I have so many lined up that are about to come out, it's going to be the best day of my life. But I've suffered for 15 years for it. And you've got to do this industry, and you've got to do this never for money. Otherwise, you'll never make it.
All right, so this next question, bringing it down, seeing that we are in A3C and we have a lot of artists in the room, what do you guys, or how do you all feel about the quality of music, where it is right now, and the direction that it's going?
Man. You know what? I'm really discouraged by music, like lately, like especially with. I'm a hip hop head, like man, I love like y'all just don't know, like I really gotta think about this because I don't, I can go on a rant for about a week, It's like right now I hate iTunes, like I hate it with a passion because one thing that it did. It gave people the option to just buy one song instead of buying somebody's whole album. So, now they just got a record that may go platinum, that's not even a single, or may get 1 million downloads and it's not even a single. Like, I like the good old days, I guess. I'm just stuck in my ways. I just, where, you don't have to sell. One thing with artists is just really disappointing when they, in the studio, they focus so much on making a single, and it's not organic anymore. Like, one of the last records I heard to me that was a hard record and it wasn't like purposely done and it was in the clubs and stuff, even in Detroit, was Fabulous Breathe. That was like, that was a record that they play that still, that's a real record. It's like when Nas made, it was written, Street Dreams don't sound like a single. If you release that now as a single, that wouldn't fly. They look for something poppy or something, a club, you know what I'm saying? Like something that, happy, something that sounds good. I don't know, I guess I just don't like, they making microwave music now.
But now, so let me chime in right there. Who do you blame for that? Do you blame the artists or the industry professionals? Because they're cutting checks.
I blame the artists because it's power in numbers, Yeah, I blame the artists because at the end of the day, they put their vocals down. This is art, and if you're really about your art, you're not going to compromise. You're not going to switch what you do. I mean, if you just want to check, I guess, hey.
I would say because the industry professionals, the artists can make this music, but if the industry professionals are continuously cutting checks for it, how can you blame the artists?
I mean, you can't. I guess you just can't blame. I don't know, man. I'm not mad for this record. I don't know. I just want good old music back.
I take the opposite side of the spectrum on that one. I like the direction the music business is going because it's gone from a business that's controlled by a couple central locations in New York and LA and maybe Nashville to where everyone from anywhere in the world is an independent artist, has an independent business, and is an independent contractor to go as hard as they want and be as successful as they want, as long as they do it properly.
Now, I agree with you, man.
Can I, since everybody, you went that way, and you went that way, I'm gonna stay in the middle. Just to say, I don't like certain things. But there are things that you know, I'm a person that say, you know, my new word is old school rules with new school tools.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I still believe that the way our industry was built, it allowed us to manage the business. That's the way it was built. I don't think we're managing the business right now. I think we're in chaos right now, and it's the wild, wild west, and everybody thinks they can be a star overnight, or they can be an artist, and everybody's got a company, and everybody's doing everything, and you can't manage it. And so then you get in rooms like this, and we're not following a psychology of a management system. Now we're in this thing where we're sitting in rooms with a bunch of people who are doing business every day without doing business correctly. And so then if one of you leak through, it's just like I always use this analogy, and it's crazy how I use this analogy. Now it's like the girl who took the camera phone and took the picture of herself, and somebody saw it because she cute, and now she got a check because she did it, and she called herself a model. She ain't got no composite, she ain't do none of the proper way to do it. None of that. She's not doing none of the proper way you go about defining yourself as a model. She used a camera phone. And she stood up and stuck her butt up on the sink, and somebody said, "That's what I want," paid for it. And so now she thinks I'm a model. And that's how we doing in the music business. We doing the same thing. We getting the same rules, and we complaining, but at the same that we want it to be independent, but that's where it's at right now. We've allowed it to be that. But on the other side, I like structure. I like when you had to go through certain systems and all like that, because what we did was we would filter out who was the best. And we would put, it's almost kind of, what's that old saying, you put the dollar on the ceiling, you make people reach for it. We would make you reach for that goal. So some people in our industry coming up, you were too intimidated by what the standard was. And so it kind of made you have to, even with hip hop, where R&B was ahead of hip-hop and hip-hop was chasing R&B, those rappers had to come with songs. They had to come with compositions that you now still praise and look up to, with the Public Enemies and all of these people. Yeah, we had some records that, in every generation you're going to have some records that we all aren't a fan of or whatever, but for the most part, we had a lot of great music, you know, coming out. And now we just got people karaokeing records. Like, they just, like, you can take the same beat and put a rapper on it, and it sound the same. And I can really, like, I'll be like at some showcases, and that's what I be feeling like. I like, y'all should just play that one beat and let everybody get up and rap their record, because that's what that beat sound like. Because it don't sound different, there's no variation. It's like, if you don't, it's almost kind of like, what are the standards now? What are the standards? What are we saying is quality? Because, like, if I'm having an argument, like even me and Lady B, right? Me and Lady B talk all the time about, you know, Trinidad James, right? And everybody's like, oh, Trinidad James this, Trinidad James that. And then I was talking to her the other day, and I said, okay, Trinidad James, he got a gold record with the single. He's on August Alastina's record, which is a popular artist right now. He's on the Work record with the ASAP Rocky Crew, which is a popular record right now. He's got, what's the artist he got that did the Rich Homie Quan. He just got off tour with Wiz Khalifa. See, when you add them kind of things together, the public at large say, oh, he doing it. They don't know nothing about, they don't care nothing about no record. At that point, they're saying he's making moves. Whereas in the industry, at one point in time, you did have to put a body of work out. You did have to qualify yourself by your body of work and all like that, but that's not the rules now. So I'm in the middle.
All right, I want to go on to my last question. Speaking of music and talking about Trinidad James, how do you all feel about the mixtape game, and how is it affecting artists' catalog?
I mean, me personally, I don't know how to really put into words the mixtape game, because it's not like my music stretches further than just rap music. And what I honestly believe is that if you make great music stands the test of time. So, you know, and what's happening is that music is there seems to be a blend. And music always crosses boundaries. So what you see happening is you know, black EDM groups. You see DJs start mixing records that you normally don't hear in the club. So, you know, mixtape is, for me, mixtapes are no different from being old school. Let me get a dub of that. Let me get a cassette, you know, for all intents and purposes. Now, you know, it does create copyright issues because if you're in the business of people getting paid, as somebody who represents a copy, you don't get paid if nobody agrees and you can't license it. That's where the issue comes. That we can make records all day, but now you're giving away your art. You're not creating new revenue, and you're not make sure I say it right. You're not creating new avenues for revenue and exploiting the catalog that you have. So mixtapes, in my opinion, are virtually worthless as far as making money. They're great for the short term, but they're great for buzz. They're a promotional tool, and they should be treated as such.
But people are giving away quality records
People calling it
mixtapes.
albums.
I mean, but you know, like it's the gift and the curse. I think that the fact of 10, 15 years ago, in order for you to hear this particular record, you would have had to gone and seen that artist at a club, or you would have had gone into a record store and actually bought it. The fact that you can download it to your phone or your Xbox or your iPad forgives all of that. So there's no connection to it. Like, I remember lining up going to get a Jay-Z album at a store. I remember lining up going to buy an EPMD record because there was an affinity for the group. Nowadays you can't really tell if people have an affinity for the group because it's actually very false. And then the other issue is that it makes the music very indispensable because these kids now, after I'm finished with that, I'm on to the next.
Yes.
I'm on to the next. I'm on to the next. So,
But being that you're doing what you're doing, right? And you're seeing like somebody throw 50 records out, right? They barely promoted this mixtape. They already got another 50 coming.
as a businessman, I'm like, well, how are you making any money?
No, but I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. But us being in here, where we're talking kind of about the publishing and about the business of it. I mean, I understand.
Right.
Like even when the last panel that I was in with B Cox and all of them, and he kind of said it's a tragedy.
Right.
Because you know the part of it that really is the tragedy is that even if you guys are doing and making money and doing all these shows, what does that say for the people who created the record?
Right. It's called copyright infringement. Is what it's called.
There's something I want to say about mixtapes. I don't think they're bad. They're not bad, and I'll tell you why. They're not bad because there are some people who want to test their water before they put in all of their hard-earned wealth into a full-on album. Also, if you want to do a mixtape and you think it's something that'll gain recognition for you and your fans want you to release something and you're not ready to release an album that has a timeless sound with longevity and you just want to put something out, that's what a mixtape is for. It's for something very specific. You can love it or you can hate it. You don't have to do it, and you don't have to download someone's mixtape that you don't want. Nobody's forcing you to download a mixtape. If it's hurting your game, then you need to make better music. That's your fault. If you think a mixtape sounds better than your album and you're a major producer, that's your fault. That's not the mixtape person's fault or the other artist's fault. They're just making better music than you. My best friend and I, Rio, from the Sound Killers, who's here, he's produced for Beyonce, Lil Wayne, Bruno Mars, David Guetta, Chris Brown. I'm gonna do it, you know, anyway. But we're releasing an album called Roar, and we did it in 5 days. And we're not calling it a mixtape, it's an album.
Thank you.
We went to Florida, and we were locked up in a room for 5 days, and we made an album. We produced, wrote, and sang on an album together. We slept on the studio floor, and we just worked. And we're about to release it, and we did it in 5 days. And it's not a mixtape. And for Grammys, it's 5 songs to submit for a Grammy. So if none of you are members of the Recording Academy, you should do that because there are a lot of great things you could do. It's five songs for the Grammys is technically an album, and you can release it like that. You can call it an EP, but I've been calling it an album because for me, it was the level of work, and it has the quality and the sound of what an album has, minus 5 songs or minus 4 songs. But mixtapes aren't bad. Just make sure that the work is great so that people don't deny you. That's all.
And see, you know, I agree with you. As an artist, it's not bad because, I mean, it's for the artist's benefit, you know what I'm saying? But as a producer, that shit is horrible. You don't get paid. And this is what I'm telling you, like, when I first started doing music, you know, it was cool. I was, man, I'm on a Dipset mixtape. I'm just happy to say I got a name. But at the end of the day, You got somebody like, you know, Birdman, Wayne, Ross, or whoever, you know, it's good for them to test the water. Like, I like when Wayne did the dedication, because, you know, industry beats, they're already out. You know, but if you have an artist that's doing a mixtape, and he's getting $50,000 a show to perform these mixtape songs, and the producer's not getting nothing, that's highway robbery. And the artists, they not dumb, they know what the hell they doing. They know exactly what they doing.
That's between the producer
Oh,
and
no. See, that's the thing. That's the thing. No,
That's not right.
Because they could just get, they could.
The artist should give it to you, you understand?
Yeah, but it's.
No, the artists don't have the money to
No,
give you.
look, this is what I'm
They're
saying.
managers.
The artist
they not
producer,
thinking like that.
the artist producer relationship is horrible now. It is bad. Unless you see how your friends, but you see how you're friends with him. You know what I'm saying? That you cannot have. I'm not saying, I'm speaking on behalf of the producers that are really trying to get relationships with these artists and get in the studio. Now all you can do is, hey, email me some beats, and that's it. They could, if they're not using it to make a profit allegedly, or they putting it on that pit for live mixtapes, there's really nothing else you can do.
You've got to create your own respect, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm not disagreeing with that. I agree with you on that, but I'm saying mixtapes are the devil because they're abusing that. They know, the artists know.
Hey, Knox, I want to use this analogy because I want to use this analogy for the whole room. We all live on 30 acres of land, right? We live on 30 acres of land. It's our land. We own it, right? Okay. We only carved out for ourselves maybe 5 acres that we need to build and live on ourselves. So we now have 25 acres of land that we own. We just gonna let anybody just start walking in and building stuff and buildings and all kind of stuff on the land without being no accountability to us at all. They don't even gotta ask us. They can just live on it as much as they want and do what they want.
Hell no.
Okay then, that's your intellectual property. That is your intellectual property. This is a violation of the intellectual property. When the term was created, let's take it to the house, DJs use the term because they got to go to the club and play their records, and they can't go to the club playing records that they don't know if it works. So they had put mixtapes out as a mechanism to the streets so they could test the records out and find out what records work. Then they got creative and said, you know what, we're going to take this into this beat that people are familiar with. We're going to stick an artist on this beat and let him rock over this beat. And we're going to see if people rock with him. And that would catch somebody like Knox's ear. Go, who is that rocking? I don't mind giving you a beat for him because I rock with him. I like this dude's flow. I like him. So you and the DJ having a relationship, you get a DJ a beat for that producer. He now takes the beat. He sticks it on the mixtape. He's rocking that beat in the club, in the street. He building the brand up for that artist. And that's one record. That ain't 50 records. That's one record. And then off of that one record, it might spawn him to do, you and him to do one more record. By that time, I guarantee you, if Sean is at a label, he talking to the label. I mean, he's saying, who is this kid? What is it? And then radio people want to know, who is this kid? People are asking, who is this kid? Off of 1 or 2 records. They asking, who is this person? So now they're interested in you because you got a cosign. Your first cosign was the DJ. Your second cosign goes to radio. Your next cosign goes to the label or whoever in your public and all like that you drummed up. Now, if you decide that you're going to go do an album is really supposed to be an anticipated product. It ain't just supposed to be something you just throw out and you just give 50 records. You supposed to, the psychology is 1 record, 2 records. Even when y'all seen Kanye before he came out with his album, what did he do every month? He kept releasing 1 record, right? And you work the 1 record. We don't work records anymore. We don't find out if people are interested in our records anymore. We just throw out this mass of records. Then y'all walk in the rooms and y'all attention span is so short and you're doing these shows and you barely can perform 1 record because everybody don't even like the record. You don't even know if you got a good record. So you can't even do the whole record. So now you're doing half or 5 records. You know, because you ain't really got a good record. But when a good artist walks in the room, that artist does 1 record. He could kill your whole show with 1 record. The DJ could kill your whole show with 1 record. And if the DJ plays, and if you're giving it away, you're not thinking about the business. Let's say one of those records catch on, Let's say that you put that record out and it catches on, and you don't have a relationship with that producer because you pissed him off because you didn't make him no money, you ain't helping him promote himself, and you ain't doing no business with him. How you gonna go back to him then and tell him how you know you're gonna do this because you got a deal on the table? You know what happens most of the time, Sean, what you tell them? Now that's a hold up the product.
How about you can't even monetize it, even if you wanted to monetize it 6 months, even if you want to monetize this project 6 months from now, say you gave it away. But now, because you don't have your paperwork in order, you can't monetize it because you can't license it.
That was something I was going to touch on, is that you're going to put the same amount of effort and you're going to put the same amount of money into putting out a mixtape, but you're not going to be able to monetize what you're doing. Better? You're not going to be able to monetize anything you do. So, like Kevin was saying, you put out 5 songs, you call it an EP, or if you put out a mixtape that has 5 songs, you're going to do the same type of advertising, the same type of hustling to try and get it on. But if you do it as an EP, you still have the opportunity, because no one out here knows which one of their songs is going to be a hit. You may think it's the A side, but it's going to be the B side. So you have to make sure that everything is out there and everything can be monetized. By giving it away on a mixtape, that's like me handing out my business card to everyone here. It's great, but it's not going to make me any money until someone calls. So same thing with putting out an EP. Until someone buys it, you may not make money, but you're doing the same thing anyways, putting out a mixtape. So you might as well try to monetize it.
And so we're going to let this be the final thought, and then we're going to throw it to the audience for a few questions because we do have to wrap this up.
Does anyone know what EP and LP stands for?
Yes.
Okay.
Extended play, a long play.
I was going to say, the last thing I was going to say about this is when you release your album, make sure that you're proud of the work. Don't just put it out because everybody wants it. And the reason I say this to you is because when I made my debut album, The Opus Unplugged, I wrote the album over time, but someone gave me the opportunity to do it in 2 days. So I recorded the album live with piano and vocals in 2 days. I filmed it, put out an episode of my documentary, Roadway, and I blasted it everywhere. And that gained so much recognition. It was just piano and vocals. It was nothing else. It was just incredible content. I'd taken time to write the songs, and I'd really put time and thought into it. So the point is, mixtape, album, single, EP, LP, whatever you want to put out, you've got to make sure that it's work that you're proud of and nobody forced you to do it. You did it on your time, you did it the right way, you promoted it correctly, properly, you had the right attorney, you had the right promoter, you had the right person doing your split sheets, you had the best producer. You know, you need to have a team of people who care about you, even if they're not making a dime. And those are the people who will ride and die for you, literally ride and die for you. And if you don't have that, then be that for yourself and be proud of being alone about it and for it. And I'm telling you, you'll go so much further. If you have a manager and they're not helping you, they're hurting you, let go of them. I swear to God, the wait and the release will just be like crazy. And then you'll release and put out so much more music. And don't just hand out CDs, and make sure your brand and your logo and your website and your everything is right. And when you have your little accounts, your Twitter and your Instagram, make sure everything is the same so that people aren't searching for this one's an underscore and that one's not, and this one. If you don't have your things all the same, people can't find you. And that's half of the reason you're not going to be successful. You don't know how many people I've had remember me just from my flyer. They were like, they didn't recognize my face, and then I gave them my flyer, like, oh my God, I saw you live in New York. Oh my God, your show was like unreal. Sometimes people just recognize you from your logo and your little flyer, and make yourself memorable. Make your sound memorable, make yourself timeless, be respectful, have etiquette, have manners. Make sure you shake people's hands, stand up and say hello. If you're in a room full of people in the studio, don't discount anybody. The receptionist who is now at EMI is working for Max Martin, and he's putting me in sessions with everybody. And I'm about to get a huge Carrie Underwood or Kelly Clarkson placement. You can't discount people. Everybody matters. And if you think nobody matters, then you're not going to matter either. I promise.